What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who classic review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first Doctor William Hartnell story, An Unearthly Child. Yes, this is the first ever Doctor Who episode of all time, An Unearthly Child. This is actually the first time I've seen it. I've never seen An Unearthly Child before, and I got the beginning box set for my birthday on Wednesday, so of course the first thing I watched was the first episode. I got a few other DVDs as well, which I'll probably do a video on Monday, but yeah, the beginning box set was really a big thing. I've never seen the first 3 episodes, so you know, I wanted to watch the first ever episode. It's obviously a big thing. So let's have a look at this. This is An Unearthly Child by Anthony Coburn. Susan Foreman is a mystery to teachers Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright, seemingly knowing more than she should about the past and the future. Their curiosity leads them to follow her home one night, only to find her home appears to be a deserted junkyard. In the junkyard, they discover a police telephone box and a strange old man who claims to be Susan's grandfather and calls himself the Doctor. The journey of a lifetime is about to begin. So yeah, that is the back of the DVD for An Unearthly Child and the basic premise of what is happening in this story, or at least how it starts. And I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, a lot of people say that episode 1 is amazing. Episodes 2, 3 and 4 are not so great. I do agree with that. However, I don't think, you know, I was going into this expecting episodes 2, 3, 4 to be absolutely terrible. But you know, they're not that bad. They're just kind of like, oh, it's not the most interesting story ever, but it's all right. I don't see how it's terrible, but at the same time, it's not amazing. Anyway, let's start off with the cast. First of all, we have William Hartnell as the first Doctor. Yeah, I've seen a little bit of William Hartnell now. I've watched the Dalek Invasion of Earth, The Rescue, and The Romans. This is my 4th William Hartnell story that I've seen, and he's actually quite a bit different and quite good in this one. He really, I don't know what it is, but later on, even, you know, coming up in the Dalek Invasion of Earth and the other episodes that I've watched, Rescue and the Romans, I mean, that's only the beginning of season 2, but he feels a lot better here. This is his first ever story, of course, but he really fits into the character straight away. And honestly, in some ways, I think he's better in this than he is in some of his later stuff, at least with the stuff that I've seen. You know, I think maybe it was because the age was getting to him later on. He was having some health issues, whereas at this time he's still alright as far as I know, and you can feel that he doesn't have as many stuff-ups with his lines. I really guess they were trying to, you know, make sure this first episode was really good. You know, they rehearsed it loads, I bet. They, you know, got the recordings just right. But yeah, I mean, William Hartnell is absolutely amazing. We then have Carol Ann Ford as Susan Foreman. Now, because I just told you that I've seen the Dalek Invasion of Earth, that's the only other Susan companion episode I've seen. The only other episodes I've seen are in Altogether, unless you count the 5 Doctors. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Susan. I really am not. Like I said, I've only, at this current point in time, I've seen now her first ever episode and her last episode. I haven't seen anything in between. I haven't really seen, well, these are the only ones I've seen of season 1 so far. I've still got the Daleks and the Edge of Destruction to watch that are also in this box set. But yeah, from what I'm getting so far, Susan is not a companion that I'm particularly interested in. She's almost as bad as Mel from you know, the Sylvester McCoy era, and I think the end of Colin Baker's era. Almost as bad as her in the way she screams and the way she talks. She's got a bit of an annoying voice, and god, she has some really annoying screamy moments in this one. Yeah, not a big fan of Susan. Carol Ann Ford, I suppose, does alright with what she's got, but yeah, just not a big fan of Susan as a character. However, Jacqueline Hill as Barbara Wright. I do love Barbara. I think she's a great character. Strong, independent woman. I mean, yeah, she doesn't really do that much in this story, I think. She gets given a bit more to do later on, but what do you expect? This is their first story. But yeah, Jacqueline Hill does an amazing job as Barbara. I really do like Barbara. And also, we have William Russell as Ian Chesterton. I love Ian. He's a great companion. I really do like him. I can't wait to delve into the William Hartnell era and see more of Ian, because I love seeing male companions, because we get so many female companions. It's really good to see some male companions sometimes, and I think Ian's just one of the greats. He's a really good companion. Then there's a couple of guest stars. I don't know exactly, I mean, it has the names of the characters they're playing, but I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what each person is, but I'll just go through the names. We've got Derek Newmark as Tsar. We've got Alethea Athea Charlton as her. My computer's really far away from me. I probably should have moved it closer. Eileen Way as the old mother, Jeremy Young as Kai, and Howard Lang as Hogg. Something like that. Korg. I don't know. Basically, they're all the cavemen, or at least the most used cavemen. I mean, they're alright. The cavemen don't interest me that much, to be honest, but yeah, they all do a decent job at what they've got, I think. Anyway, we can now move into the episode itself, starting off with the good things. First of all, part 1 is very different, but it sets things up great. Yeah, so part 1 of this story is amazing. Like I said, it's a 4-part story, and part 1 is definitely the best part. We don't see the Doctor until like halfway through, really. It's all about Ian and Barbara trying to find out who Susan is and what she's going, where she goes, how she knows all the things that she does, and it's really just a setup to that. I love the bits where they're, following her home and they're kind of in the car and then they're bumbling around the junkyard. And I mean, when they meet the Doctor and the Doctor just comes out and, they go in the TARDIS and it's so good. I think, of course, part 1 doesn't have any monsters. It doesn't even have any threats. If anything, if there was any threat, it's probably the Doctor in some ways. But I mean, it's such a good episode. Honestly, part 1 I'd probably give a 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10. It's an absolutely amazing first part to the story. The story isn't too strong, but it's good enough for the first trip in the TARDIS. Yeah, so the story itself, really, after we get past episode 1 and introducing us to these characters, because I mean, they're introducing us to the Doctor and everything, Ian, Barbara, Susan. We then get into this caveman story, which I don't think is particularly interesting, but it's not complete boring that you're going to fall asleep. It's just like, okay, this is alright. It's the sort of thing you expect from, a first Doctor's episode, really. So it works pretty well, and I think what it does is okay. It's just not the most exciting thing. The Doctor's "fear makes companions of all of us" speech. Yeah, what a good speech. I can't remember it off the top of my head, I've only seen it once, but the first Doctor says "fear makes companions of all of us," does this whole speech about hope and something as well. I think he says it to Barbara mainly, and that's just a really good speech. It's good to have, Doctor Who, known for good speeches. It's great to have one right off the bat. The Doctor and Ian's conflict. Yeah, the Doctor and Ian have this conflict throughout this episode. Ian not quite believing what's happening and, wondering who the Doctor is, this mysterious old man with this young girl. It's a bit weird there. And the conflict between the Doctor and Ian's great, who's the leader of this group? And Ian's like, well, I should be the leader, but eventually he's like, yeah, the Doctor's the leader. And it's really good. I really like that conflict. The fight scene in part 4, another pretty cool moment. It's nice to have a nice fight scene after a little bit of slight boring kind of just conversation with the caveman. There ends up being a bit of a fight between the two kind of more lead cavemen, and that's a really nice little fight scene for 1963. It's pretty nice. Yeah, not really too much to say about that. It was just interesting. The episode's rather brutal at times for Doctor Who. Yeah, I was actually quite surprised at how brutal it was. I mean, we don't really see too much. One guy gets pretty beat up and you see a bunch of blood all over his body. I think most of it, they say, turns out to be the animal's blood that he was fighting or whatever it was. But yeah, a lot of blood all over that guy's chest. That was pretty crazy. And also, I mean, at one point a caveman crushes a rock on another caveman's head, I'm pretty sure. And they start beating each other up, and when they have that fight, it's just like a massive fight, and it's pretty brutal actually. You don't really see too much of the crazy brutal stuff, but you can tell what's going on when the guy, grabs a giant rock and puts it on the floor right where that guy's, that guy's head was there. It's like, that's pretty brutal for Doctor Who. That is pretty brutal, but it definitely works. It's very, very good. And finally, the trick Ian played using sticks, skulls, and fire was inventive. Yeah, I liked when they were imprisoned by the cavemen, and Ian used the skulls, the sticks, and the fire to kind of trick the cavemen. Of course, the cavemen not being the brightest of people, and yeah, I thought that was a really nice little thing to kind of get away from them at the end. On to the bad things. We start off with something that I've already touched on a little bit. Susan is so screechy and annoying. Yeah, she's not a character that I like. I mean, I don't know if I'll get to like her throughout her run on the show. I'm definitely excited to see more of her, but At the same time, my 2 experience with her so far in this, she's too screechy, her voice is just annoying, and she screams too much. The Dalek Invasion of Earth, she just didn't really do much. So far, Susan isn't the most interesting character for me. The cavemen going on about fire goes on too long. Yeah, the whole premise of the story really is that the cavemen, they want fire. They want to make fire, but they can't. And the doctor comes along and all this stuff happens and he says he can make fire. And there's just a big speech with the cavemen of one guy just going, fire, we need fire, can we have fire, I want fire. And it goes on for a bit too long. I'm like, okay, are we gonna stop that now? Or are we just gonna keep talking about fire? It goes on for a bit long that. Barbara has her screaming moments too. Yeah, there's one bit where she has a bit of a scream when somebody jumps out at them. However, Barbara's not too bad with that, at least in this episode. I hear that she does have a few bad screaming moments later on, but in this episode she's not too bad. And then finally can be slow in parts 2 to 4. You know, like I said, the caveman story, I think for what it was, having it as 3 parts was a bit much. It would have worked as a 2-parter more. You know, maybe have this episode be a 3-parter. You know, have part 1 as the introductory episode that it was, keep it exactly the same, and then maybe just have 2 other parts. Dragging it over 3 parts, it was a bit slow. I still think it worked, and maybe putting it to just 2 other parts would be a bit too much, but yeah, it was definitely slow in points, especially with that, that fire thing I was talking about earlier. But yeah, all up, I actually really enjoyed An Unearthly Child. I was pretty skeptical. I was like, everybody really loves episode 1. They say that parts 2 to 4 are pretty crap. But you know what? I really enjoyed part 1 like I expected. And actually fairly enjoyed parts 2 to 4 as well. Nothing crazy, but I did enjoy them. I'm going to give An Unearthly Child a 7 out of 10. I think it's a pretty average story all up. I think a 7 out of 10 is a good rating to give the first episode. I mean, I consider 7 out of 10 to be pretty much average. So for the first episode to kind of set that mark, I suppose, I think that's pretty decent. Like I said, I'd probably give part 1 like a 9 out of 10, maybe even a 9.5, just for how different and inventive and just good it is at introducing everything. However, parts 2 to 4, maybe like a 6 out of 10, so I'm going to round it off to a 7 out of 10 altogether. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.